Hey, welcome back to the channel. It is the middle of November and it is going to be 75 degrees tomorrow, which is Friday. So I am taking the KLR out for an all-day ride. Now, I want to do one modification before I take it out. And that is put a second gen swing arm on. These things are aluminum, they're about 3 pounds lighter, and they're just cooler looking than what's on there. So I'm trying to get that done before I take off tomorrow. Also gives you a slightly bigger brake rotor and a 2-pot caliper on the back for better braking. Picked this up off eBay. The only problem with it is that it had been gouged at some point. Went down and went for a little slide. So I've cleaned that up. I'm going to TIG that in and then smooth it back out, slap some paint on it. Should be ready to install. Now to just smooth it out like it never even happened. Nothing to see here. Get this put on, slap a little black paint on it, be just like new. Now in order to do this upgrade to a Gen 1, you've got to have the swing arm, of course. Got to have the bracket that holds the caliper, because that's different. Then, of course, you're going to need a caliper. Now, I bought a whole mess of stuff here off eBay. So it's got me a new master cylinder, new used lever, stuff like that. This is what I need. Twin piston caliper. So before I even bring the bike over, we're going to get this pulled off. Got a kit right here from All Balls to rebuild that. I'm not going to rebuild it on this video because I've got another video where I did the big front brakes on the bike. I went completely through on rebuilding a dual piston caliper, so I won't mess with it here. But I am going to rebuild that. Okay, that caliper's all rebuilt and looking good. I've got the beast up in the air now, so time to take off the rear wheel and swing arm. Okay, next up we'll be taking out the pin that holds the swing arm to the links and the rocker. So we'll pull this pin out and then we can just pull the pin out that holds the swing arm straight into the bike. Okay, that released the lowering links. And now the swing arm is free to pivot. Well, that's interesting. I had never really paid much attention to this rear swing arm, except that I'd always heard they were made out of steel and that they were prone to cracking and blah, blah, blah. That's aluminum. Now, I'm not sure when they changed it on the first gens, but mine is a 2007, so it is the last year of the first gens. But I pulled that out and looked at it and it's like, that's not steel. Now, the new style is 1 pound lighter as opposed to the 3 that I'd read on the internet. Now the other difference is changing the brakes. I get a 1/2 inch larger rotor, which that's not too big a difference, but it is 1/2 inch larger. And here's the difference in the brake pads. This is second gen, this is first gen, the single pot versus the dual pot. Now, this way, the first gen is a little wider, but you have a lot more swept area that way. See the difference there? And it's like a 1/4 inch wider this way. So the second gen's definitely got more meat on the brake pads and a little bit bigger rotor. So that'll be good. And I do like the chain adjuster setup better on the second gen. So now, as dirty as that looks, I have been in here before and redid all the bearings, but this is a dirt bike. But if you haven't been in there before, all these connections have needle bearings. Be a good idea to go through and check to make sure they're good, put a little grease on them. Now, I've already pulled the sleeves out of these, greased them. You got the swing arm bearings, and then you got the main pivot on the bottom. I've already greased them up, so that thing's pretty much ready to go on. So if I had lots of time, I'd go ahead and clean this all really good, but I want to ride today, so we're just going to slap it in there, and this thing will probably get a full cleaning sometime this winter. All right, I'm ready to slide the new swing arm in there. Make sure to give the cross bolt a good coat of anti-seize. You saw I had to beat that old one out. Next up, we're putting the new rotor on the back wheel. Here's the one I took off. Somebody changed it to looks just like the one I'm putting on a Tusk aftermarket rotor. Get all the bolt holes lined up. You can see the difference in size there, which is just a little bit, but every little bit helps. As I've been putting it together, I've been paying attention to the differences between the first and second gen. Now, your spacers appear to be the same, so you could reuse your first gen spacers, but the axles are different. First gen's here, and it is a bit longer, so you will need the second gen axle. Now, the pivot bolt for the swing arm where it goes in the frame was the same, so you wouldn't necessarily need that. I believe I'm ready to slip this in here. Don't forget your spacers. You got to have your new brake bracket over here. And on this setup, it's got these little brackets for the chain adjusters. And that actually has quite a bit more space between everything than I'm used to on these. Normally it's a fight to get it in there. Yeah, I went in and double checked. I'm not missing any parts on the axle there. So there was a little bit of spread, which makes it a lot easier to get everything up in there, and then it just pulls it right together when you tighten the bolt. So I've adjusted the chain, got the adjusters locked down, axle locked down. Now, factory. This monstrosity went in here somewhere. Yeah, probably bolted on like that from the backside. Little guard. This is about the equivalent of what the first gen had coming off the swing arm. But yeah, this ain't going back in. I do, over the winter, want to build a proper chain guide that fits around the chain to feed it in there. And I realize I'm running a slight risk of derailing the chain if I got into anything really, really technical, shove the chain over. But I think we'll be fine for now. And I'll build something or buy something that I like. There's a couple of holes here I can come off of. Something to do better than that thing. And I don't want anything covering the top. I'm fine with it slinging a little oil. It's a dirt bike. So now we're ready to tackle the brakes. All right, got the caliper mounted up. Did not have any bolts because the flange here is a lot thicker the way it hooks up. So I had to come up with a couple of bolts. Found some in the bolts bin, no problem. And then we ran into a problem. Remember me saying the hose might be a different length? Well, I didn't realize that set back quite that far. And I had read that aftermarket brake hoses would generally work. Well, mine's aftermarket, and we're coming up way short. which is not a huge problem because I did get the whole braking system off of an '08 model. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and run the old hose until I can get a new braided stainless one, which will be fine. And we're also going to change the master cylinder because this one on the '07 model is a 1/2 inch bore. And the one off the '08 is a 14 millimeter, which is a little bit bigger than half. So I'm going to keep this. That way it will match the brake caliper. I'd say the 1/2 inch would work, just have a little difference in pressure feel on the pedal. But since I have it, we're going to use what it originally came with. So we'll get this swapped out, and then we can bleed the brakes. I think part of the reason that the aftermarket lines might have fit better is I think they run up like this. I may be wrong on that, but I thought I'd seen pictures running up. This one goes all the way around and loops on the back. Either way, we'll make it work. I'm determined like that. And before I hook that up to my new master cylinder, or my new freshly rebuilt caliper, we're going to get some fluid flush through it. Wow, that was more difficult than it should have been. Never did get the 14 millimeter master cylinder to work. Just would not pump fluid for anything. So it's got to be just plugged up on the inside. So I'll get a kit and rebuild it. We'll put the 1/2 inch back on here. Now we got good brakes. So now we're just ready to shoot a little paint on the other side, button a couple of things up, and we can actually go for a ride. Well, that definitely took longer than I'd planned, but got it on there. I am happy with it. Looks better. I either need to paint the frame silver or the swing, or I need to either paint the frame black or the swing arm silver so everything matches. I think I paint the frame black, but did get me bigger brakes, even though I didn't cut as much weight off as I was hoping. Getting ready to take it for a ride, not as long as I'd planned, since this did take quite a while. But we'll get the new braided stainless line on there, and I will also get a kit to rebuild that master cylinder, so we'll know if it makes any difference when I change from the 1/2 to the 14. So we'll ride it now with the 1/2, get the 14 fixed, swap it later. Well, I've put 110 miles on it since we did the brake upgrade, and it is an absolute success. Now, for the first time, this thing, I think, has pretty dang good brakes. No complaints. With the big brake upgrade from Eagle Mike using the SV twin pot caliper up front. Got the 2nd gen, like I said, we did the swing arm. The twin pot off of an '08 2nd gen, and it just stops excellent. In fact, it might stop a little too good for some people. The back end, if you're on gravel, it's not at all hard to lock it up and slide it, which I like doing that. I mean, I'm used to riding dirt bikes and changing the direction of the bike, sliding the back tire, so that's good. And you can also lock it up pretty easy on pavement, which some people might not like. Now, I am still running the 1/2 inch master cylinder. If you go to the 14, that should tame that down a little bit, because this, with the smaller master cylinder, you should have to use less force on the pedal for an equal amount of braking on the back. It's kind of like putting a smaller sprocket on the front end. You get less work done, but it's a lot easier to do. Now, you go to the 14, it's slightly bigger, so you should have to put a little more pedal effort into it for the same amount of rear braking. And if you wanted to tame it down even more, I'm running metallic pads in the back, well, front and back. You could always run like ceramics or something. It's been a good trip. Didn't make it to the Hangar Cafe for breakfast like I'd planned, since the bike had I had issues with that master cylinder, but I did make it for lunch now. And while I've been into this cove, who knows how many times in the boat, this is the first time I've actually been to this spot, you know, on land. Didn't have any idea how to get here, but I'm having a great ride, loving the brakes. Can't think of anything else I need to do. Oh, can think of something else I need to do. Still need to put different brake line on. You still feel it's a little bit mushy when you're pressing it. A braided steel line will fix that up, no problem. And so I'll get that ordered just as soon as I get home. There's a couple of screw holes on the top of that swing arm, so I can probably get rid of the zip ties and mount the brake line better. But for today, the zip ties were fine, and if zip ties are always good. Well, that's all for now. I've got a couple hours before I have to be home. Ride safe. Well, or ride at the ragged edge of safe, which is the most fun. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.